Welcome to the Freedom Legal Podcast, where you can come to liberate your lifestyle, liberate your practice, and liberate your relationships. We deliver the most up-to-date insights into the most effective and efficient lifestyle designs, business plans, marketing plans, automation software, and delegation strategies for solo practice lawyers and attorneys. Here is your host, experienced lawyer, writer, and entrepreneur, Jonathan Jaussi.
Welcome to the Freedom Legal Podcast, where we come to liberate our lifestyle, our practice, and our relationships. I'm attorney Jonathan Jaussi, and I'll be your host today. So glad you've tuned in. I'd like you to hit that like and subscribe button down below, and as well as make some comments of other topics you think we might cover, or if you have ideas on these topics you think we could share that would be a benefit to others, we'd love to hear that. Today's guest is Marco Brown. Marco grew up in a small Alaskan village called Cold Bay. The population was 85, and his dad managed a salmon hatchery, and his mom was an air traffic controller. After moving to Anchorage and attending high school, he left early to get his GED before eventually making his way to Brigham Young University, where he studied psychology. Marco graduated with distinction from the University of Nebraska School of Law and then clerked with the 3rd Judicial District in Iowa. He worked for the second largest law firm in New Mexico before moving to Utah in 2010 so his wife could study for her doctorate in vocal performance at the University of Utah. Marco now owns Brown Law, a Salt Lake-based law firm that focuses exclusively on divorce. Brown Law is the only divorce firm in Utah that offers flat fees through the entire litigation process. Marco is an adoptive father, and he and his wife just had their first biological child at 41. Marco got to name his new boy, because his wife named the first one, and as only good lawyer and member of the Federalist Society would do, he named him Antonin. To deal with his job, Marco travels. His travels usually take him to Italy, but he recently spent Christmas in Argentina eating steak. I'm glad to have Marco on board, and I welcome him here to the program and the podcast. My feeling, just so you know, my feeling behind this podcast and why I created it is I really want to generate a discussion among solo practitioners, and particularly new ones. There's approximately 1.2 million attorneys in the United States and Canada alone, and half of them are solos.
56%.
Yeah, it's a big number. And a lot of them are floundering with the issues that we talk about. So if we can help a few of those out, that really would be meaningful to me.
Yeah, and that's why I do what I do. The stats, I don't know if we talked about this before, but the stats are actually really very bad for solos. They work on average 8 hours a day in the office. They bill on average 4 hours a day, and they collect on average 1.8 hours a day. And that's where we get so many of these problems. And that's why I did the CLE. That's why I talk about this stuff all the time, because that's unsustainable. We are going to, there's no wonder why attorneys drink and cheat on their wives and on their husbands and get divorced a lot. You can't work 8 hours a day and get paid for 20% of what you do and psychologically and spiritually and emotionally healthy.
No, it's demoralizing. And I think that contributes to the alcoholism rates. And you see, the big push, lawyers helping lawyers nationally, trying to deal with this, because it's something that's become so pervasive that the practice as a whole has had to acknowledge it, that we really have a problem here.
Yeah, and I think, personally, this is what I think. I haven't done data on it. It's just like an N of one thing that. It solves so many of my problems. I wasn't a drunk or, cheating on my wife, but it solves so many of my problems on such a base level that I'm fairly certain if we did this, if we all got paid, if we made a very serious effort to get paid 100%, then a lot of these problems go away. And again, I don't understand why people aren't saying things like this, why we're not talking about this. I tend to think it's that idea that, hey, we shouldn't talk about getting paid. That's a dirty thing among lawyers, and we should talking about doing good for people and blah, blah, blah. No, let's do an uncontroversial thing and have all lawyers get paid 100%. And then let's work on all of the other issues that we might have. But let's see how many that solves, that one thing.
I think so, because, you take away, somebody who is feeling, 110 or maybe 120% of the pressure that they could normally deal with. And you take away 30% of it, now they're at 90.
Yeah.
Does that make the difference between them turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms like drinking? Maybe it does. I don't know that you can look at it. It's so multivariate. I don't know that you can look at it in too simplistic a way, but everything we could do to reduce the stress on a human being, the research is very clear that happier people who are less stressed out make better decisions, make better professional judgments, are able to show up for other people in a way that unhappy, taxed, stressed people just can't. And that's not, you probably don't need research to know that, just human experience, but the research is there nonetheless.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we need a certain amount of stress as human beings to get anything done. Otherwise, we don't actually do anything.
Sure.
But the way we treat ourselves as lawyers is to stress ourselves out to the nth degree and then not get paid for it and continue to do work and perpetuate that cycle. And that is really super bad, no matter who you are. But especially bad for lawyers, since we're all kind of alphas, right? We all want to do really well, and then we think that we're terrible because we're not doing well. But I think this one thing can really change that.
And one of the things, one of the things that occurs to me, I call this the toxic champion syndrome. It's just I've just kind of pulled that out of my ear. But this idea of, many people have seen the story of Chesley Sullenberger, who was the pilot who landed the airplane in the Hudson Bay full of, I think, like 200 passengers. And there was this moment when he realized that he was not going to make it. He wasn't going to make it over to the New Jersey airport. He wasn't going to make it to the New York airport. And very, very quickly, he looked for a long, flat stretch of anything to put this bird down on. And it was the Hudson. That was it. And if you listen to the radio chatter between him and the air traffic controller, it's very moving. I think of it. And I can't help but thinking of this moment. He came down, he landed, he did everything textbook. And to a certain extent, we as attorneys are in that place. A lot of times people come to us and we enter stage left in the story right about the time the airplane's on fire, it's going down. Okay, here are the controls, sir.
Yeah.
And the very best thing we can do is crash land the airplane. That is the definition of success in that particular situation. However, there is an adrenaline to that I think we get addicted to as attorneys. We get addicted to being that important. We get addicted to being the center stage actor in this crisis moment. And like all addictions, the rush initially is huge. The payout is huge. I mean, you were the champion. You saved the day. But what they don't tell you about the rest of it is you deal with compassion fatigue. You deal with, oh my gosh, what if I don't get this right? How will this impact the client? You deal with the inability to sleep, to relax, to see yourself in a normal life when you are not in a state of crisis. And you become very quickly, as you do this cycle of, working through crisis, being the hero, being the champion for your clients, you become what I call a toxic champion. You just are being slowly poisoned by it. It is so critical, I feel, to do the things we talked about, to be able to stop, have those human moments of vacation, of time where I am just in my relationships that matter to me. I'm in my hobbies that matter to me. I am not saving anyone from anything. I am not fixing problems just once. Let me not be the fixer. And if we don't do that, if we don't create a space for that, I think it slowly begins to poison us.
Yeah.
Now changing towards, the positive effects of being able to be paid regularly, I can think of a number that come right off the top of my head. One is job costing, not only the work that we do, the impact on our business, but our lifestyle. Like, okay, how much money do we want to make after costs that we take home to our families? What kind of needs do we have? Have we got our minds wrapped around the monthly nut to crack, so to speak, financially? I'm surprised by how often I ask attorneys that question, and they do their very best bluff, stall answer. They don't have it. They don't know. They don't even know. They're running from moment to moment, which tells me we're in survival mode. And so being intentional about this, about getting paid and how much money you want to earn, can take a tremendous stress off your shoulders, and it can allow you to do a lot of the things you love to do. I know for me, that's one of the things that makes my life enjoyable. I like to travel. I understand you like to travel and play a little bit. Tell me, what are some of the fun things you've done this year?
So I deal with my job as a divorce attorney by traveling. I gave my wife a choice a long time ago that I could deal with my job in a socially acceptable manner or not socially acceptable manner. And the socially acceptable manner involved vacations. So she picked that one. We go to Italy a lot. I lived there in my 20s, late teens, early 20s. Love the place. We go back. I try to go back twice a year. We were in Argentina where my wife lived in her early 20s. And then we went to Italy after that over Christmas and the kind of New Year portion of the year for about a month. But I try to make 2 trips back to Italy a year. We go on other vacations. And the reason for that is, we got to deal with our jobs. We have stressful jobs, and we really need to get away because we're just so refreshed when we get back. Now, you gotta grind it when you're at work, but you have to grind it a lot less when you get paid 100% for what you do, and you have a lot more money, and that allows you to do these other things. And that's why I really preach this gospel. Get paid for everything you do. Because the positive downstream effects of that are massive. It's not only taking vacations. It's, if you buy a house, you can pay it off. You can pay off your student loans. You decrease that stress that's on you, right? So let me tell you this story a little bit. That the whole reason that I talk to people about this, and the whole reason I decided to get paid 100% for what I do, is I started a law firm in 2010 during the Great Recession, not a great time. And I made all of these mistakes that I talked to other attorneys about. I chased money. I took the wrong type of clients. I didn't get paid. I didn't send out billing for 3 months at a time. I made all these mistakes. But I grew kind of slowly but surely. And in 2015, I was at a point where I was doing okay, or I thought I was. I won Divorce Lawyer of the Year here in Utah. It was an election, or it was a vote. The Bar Association. I thought that was very cool. I usually don't care about awards, but I really cared about that one. I thought that was great for about 2 days. And then I realized that I had all the same problems I had before that. And I needed to figure out what to do about those problems. And I would wake up early in the morning, 3-4 o'clock in the morning, thinking I had missed something on a case. I'd get in the shower. I had about 5 minutes of reprieve until I started thinking about cases. Then my heart would start to palpitate. My chest would start to constrict. And I knew in those moments, as I was going through this, that I was going to live a pretty short life if I allowed that to continue. So I made a decision then and there that I was going to change things. And I thought to myself, how do I do that? What do I change first? Because there's this idea of apex behaviors. So the behaviors that are on the top, and they affect everything down from there. So I thought, well, let's get paid 100% for the work we do and see what positive effects it has. And that's where I started with this. And the positive effects have been amazing. There's more money. And when there's more money, there's more money and you actually work less. So those two things are obviously good. And then you can pay your people more, you get better people. You can fire the clients that you don't want, those non-quality clients, those F clients that we all have. You can fire them. So you upgrade
because you don't need them.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need them. In fact, you can't have them. And I can talk about the economics of that, but you can't have them. Otherwise, they suck everything. They suck all your time away, and they don't pay you very much. so you can focus on the people who do pay you. And there's so many positive effects, so many positive psychological effects to all of this as well. Behavior and physical effects. I mean, I let myself get fat in 2015. It was bad. And I've really dealt with that. And now I'm much thinner than I was. I have a lot more muscle. I just work out a lot more because I have more time to do those sorts of things. So there are psychological effects, there are physical effects, there are emotional effects, there are spiritual effects. There are all of these good things that happen from this one thing.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And if that's the one takeaway our audience can get from this, is that what is the lifestyle you want to live as a result of the financial successes of your business? For me, I'm like you, Marco. I love to travel. I've 2020, I've got Italy planned. I love it. It's a beautiful place. I've been to Morocco. I've been all over the Caribbean. And again, these are not bragging. These are the fruits of success. You can do these kinds of things. I love also, those are bigger things, the little things about hey, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I've got my practice managed financially and systemically, and deadlines are taken care of. I'm going to go play with my kids today. I got a 12-year-old boy and he wants to throw a baseball and have his dad, catch all these errant hits that he's sending off in the park. I could do that. Look, I'm in my 40s. My kids are going to be out of the house in 10 years. There's going to be plenty of years to really just grind and go crazy at the law practice. But I'm never going to be able to go back again and recapture that time with them. And so I'm not trying to, push for a Hallmark movie here. I'm just saying that these things matter to me. These are the things that are the quality of life pieces for me. Am I free to go experience the world and to travel? Am I free to, have a nice weekend with my wife who I care about? Are my relationships that I care about so much, are they being fed by my practice or are they being drained by it? And as you consider that question, I hope that you can look for ways to use your practice to feed those key relationships to where the people around you are saying, wow, I am really glad that this person in my life practices law. One of the ways, of course, obviously, is a financial success and stability that comes from that. I think another thing that needs to be said here is that we need to play first. Because I like many others, and I've said this before to where I probably sound like a broken record on this idea of planning play first. I, like so many other people, grew up with this idea being drilled into my head that you play after the work is done. Well, practicing law, it's never done well enough. We could always do a little bit more. We could always spend more hours on that brief. We could spend a little more time in the research for this case or drafting that key document for the client. We need to have commitments to ourselves and the people around us that we won't violate. And in order to really do that with credibility inside ourselves, we need to be getting paid for the time that we actually do work. Otherwise, it's just too tempting. Like if we're not making enough that particular month, we're going to want to invade that time with those key relationships. So I think this is such an important topic, and that's one of the things that I would love to see each member of this audience do for themselves is decide, okay, if I had the next 12 months to plan now, and I do, what are the fun things I want to do to feed my relationships? What are the things I want to do on a weekly basis, monthly basis, or even maybe once a year basis? And my challenge to you is go put those things on the calendar now and do the things in your practice that are going to make those a reality, including collecting your money. Any other thoughts you want to share with the audience on this topic?
No, I think that's exactly right. So I sit down on January 1st or right around there, and I plan out the entire year. So we're going to take vacations during these periods of time. We're going to do things during these periods of time, and they get blocked off. And my office knows that I'm gone. Now, I can do that because I've spent years figuring out a system that allows me to do that. And I have attorneys who I've hired and who I employ, and I've created this system that allows me to do it. You don't necessarily need that. If you're an associate somewhere, you can still do it. Just use your time. But planning it is the big first step. And if you work in a place that doesn't give you the ability to do that sort of thing, then make your own thing. Just go out and make your own thing. The numbers are this. If you go out on your own and you bill and collect 1/4 of the hours that you bill and collect at your law firm right now, you will make about the same amount of money, almost exactly the same amount of money, actually, because law firms pay anywhere from 22.5% to slightly over 25% on average.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad. And I tell people this all the time. I started a law firm at a very bad time, and by the hand of Providence, it was successful. This is a very good time to even get out of law school and start a law firm, or just to leave a law firm and do your own thing. If you do that, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You really will be okay. The numbers are there. Just kind of work through that. But if you're in a place that sucks your soul, then get out.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of those things that I think we are constantly advocating for other people as attorneys. Every now and then we need to, in a healthy and positive way, advocate for ourselves. Is this the kind of life I want to live? Is this the kind of life that is supporting the key relationships in my life, that is enriching them and my experience from day to day? If not, let's figure something else out. Well, thank you, Marco. I really appreciate your time here, and I know our listeners do as well. Really grateful that you've been here with us, sharing some of your expertise on getting paid and taking care of yourself as a practitioner.
Thank you very much. It's been great.
Thank you for tuning in to Freedom Legal. We're glad that you were here with us. We again invite you to subscribe to the podcast and share this with your friends in the profession. And feel free to make comments as to topics you think we could cover and ideas that need to be shared here, and we'll be happy to incorporate them as we can. Talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Freedom Legal Podcast. Please visit the podcast website to submit your questions and feedback. Let us help you liberate your lifestyle, liberate your practice, and liberate your relationships. We'll see you next time.